Hey guys, welcome back to the Lit Mag Lab podcast. I'm Marie, aka Vevna Forrow. So previously on the podcast, I was showing you around Only Poems, a literary magazine, right? Based and founded out of Ontario, Canada, I believe, yeah. And yeah, they have a lot of really cool workshops, sessions, and courses that they offer to writers, in addition to membership, tier structure and portal. So yeah, totally. Check that out when you get a chance. Listen back to it. You can watch the video, what I'm sharing on my screen, out on YouTube and Spotify. So yeah, this is gonna be another under the slide episode, as I nicknamed these because of the whole Lit Mag Lab microscope thing. But yeah, so Sky Island Journal today. Yeah, let's take a look. I have covered predominantly fee free lit magazine journals on this podcast, along with some Q&As and my thoughts on some questions. So yeah, from time to time, I totally will share a couple other lit magazine journals with minimal fees. Of course, we as writers, artists, we prefer to submit to places that are fee free, right? Totally. But yeah, as I've shared on this podcast, there's, I think Duotrope has a statistic. I feel like that movie, Jim Carrey, where they were saying statistic. Oh gosh, I never forgot that quote. If you don't know what I'm referring to, look up that movie, Fun with Dick and Jane. That movie was so LL, guys. But a statistic, yeah. So they have this stat here. I mean, note 8% of magazines always charge fees, and yeah. So $5, it's not too bad, but I've seen places charge, with minimal fees, 250, $1 even, or $3 to $5 mostly. In recent years, I think we've seen a lot of fee increases and implementation in lit magazine journals. There are places, I think, that this year, have I've seen incorporate even $10 or $20 fees, and they weren't even contests, without a cash award or anything overall. So that's yeah, that was pretty steep. I personally, when I started, submitting the places I shared on this podcast in the earlier Q&A portion of it, that I had, submitted to places that had $20, $10, even five, and expedited responses. All of that adds up very quickly. It can put a hole in your pocket, burn a hole, absolutely. Yeah, so in your wallet or purse, or it can burn a hole in your pocket. Yeah. So yeah, just be mindful about that. But once in a blue moon, I think it's totally okay, to submit to places that have minimal fees. However, it's you know, it can absolutely think about it, places that are charging $20, right? You could do a lot with that $20, right? So, I think a lot of writers, they feel scammed when they have to pay to submit, right? Or, very high fees are they're faced with. So minimal fees, are, I've seen poets sometimes once in blue moon, if the publication is doing a phenomenal job and is really, you know, um, showcasing that, minimal fees, are understandable to help cover costs. But obviously fee free places are our faves, we try to submit there first. I myself, from time to time have submitted to places with minimal fees like this, but yeah, just keep that in mind. Not every place charges fees. Again, I have an episode on this podcast, again, on how to find free opportunities. So you can totally listen back to that. I think it was number was that in the yeah, I think that was episode 50, 51. Yeah, I think it was, yeah, where I was covering how to find free opportunities and searching, and yeah. So look back at those episodes, and yeah. So let's get into Sky Island Journal. I just wanted to mention that, but I think Sky Island Journal does a really great job, especially I must say on social media. What they do, which I really like, is support other lit magazine journals in terms and presses in terms of releases tied to past contributors they've had. So if a past contributor has a release or chapbook or a publication that's out, right? Sky Island Journal, I've seen they've reshared that on their channels as well. Very supportive, absolutely. So that's really cool. I believe they're based out of New Mexico, United States. Yeah. So I'm just going to share a little bit about them, typical coverage on it, and we'll go through the website in a little bit. So they were founded in 2017. It states here, quoting this off of ChillSub's overview page, in 8 years, they've published over 1,100 writers from 57 countries, and their family of contributors continues to grow. They're an independent, international, free access literary journal providing a constellation of over 160,000 readers in 150 countries with a powerful, focused, advertising free literary experience that transports them, one that challenges them intellectually and moves them emotionally. They believe in removing barriers between readers and access to high quality literature, especially in regions of the world that have traditionally been underserved by English language journals or completely ignored by the literary establishment. So to date, they have been featured, or they have appeared, I should say, in Pushcart Prize, meaning published work that they had, work published through Skyland Journal has appeared in Pushcart series and a fish list. So I have an episode on that. 61 on the fish list, what that is, but their last ranking was 363 out of 1,830. Clifford Garstang 112 out of 130, and then Brecht's top 1,000, 204 out of 1,000 there. And some lists that they appear on Chill Subs, the collection list. So 120 plus speculative magazines looking for flash fiction, where to publish your magical realism, fiction magazines, again, featured in Pushcart Prize anthologies, nonfiction magazines featured in Pushcart Prize anthologies, poetry magazines featured in Pushcart Prize anthologies, and and then again, lit mags featured in Pushcart Prize anthologies. So yeah, and then they were also on the Where the Cool Kids Are Submitting their Writing These Days, Part 1, and yeah, so those are some of the lists. So yeah, I'm not sure if it was for multiple categories, but yeah, that's awesome though, So yeah, again, I think it's always, you're gonna start your literary journal, Best of the Net, Pushcart Prize, there are a couple nomination events each year that have no fee at all, as a publisher to nominate work for. I think it's totally worth it to enter those, nomination events. There are some out there, like Best New Poets. I think we had a $5 fee for entering that, but the other ones are free to submit, to mail it in, and I think it's worth it. And the best of the net, I mean, they just have, it's very very simple, to do all that. I discussed it on the podcast, some of the nomination events. So yeah, um let's take a look here at their response time. So averaging 9 days based on editor reported data, and then 7 days is what others have tracked. So that's a pretty quick average. It depends how many have been tracking though their chill subs, their decision time and response time on that. So average acceptance rate has been showing 10.77% from submitters, and then the editor reports about a 3% acceptance rate. So yeah, and again, they have a fee of $4.99, $5 as of 2025. I always say as of 2025 because fees can change. Some lit magazine journals eliminate fees, some restructure things, right? So just keep that in mind. Yeah. So yeah, it looks like they have a winter 2026 call for issue 34 open till December 31st of this year, 2025. And let's see what else is open. Any other calls? So yeah, so they're working on, it looks like issue 34. So yeah, says 2 to 5 pieces up to 1,000 words. So it says if you live outside of the United States, and paying the submission fee would create a financial hardship or security risk, you can ask for a submission fee waiver. So yeah, that's nice. They do. It looks like they'd have provided or fee waivers to some, totally, and they're using Submittable, right? And yeah, what I like about Subfolio is that there's a way to generate like a separate fee waiver link off to someone, and they can submit that off to us so we can keep track of those as needed. We haven't been on Subfolio very long, but I think it has more flexibility than Submittable. I said this on multiple podcast episodes, but I think quite a few editors and friends I have in the community, they have, expressed frustrations with submittable, right? Totally. Some things, absolutely. And our bill didn't increase at all. It's still the same as what we were paying on submittable. $29 on Subfolio again, and the CLMP membership. And maybe I'll do an episode after this one. We'll see on CLMP. I did cover the benefits of the CLMP membership, and that one being, you get discounts on certain things, and great resources and platforms and tools, right? So yeah, we'll head over to the site in a little bit here, but it says submit 4 to 5 poems in a single document, 2 to 3 pieces of flash fiction under 1,000 words in a single document, or 2 to 3 pieces of creative nonfiction under 1,000 words in a single document per submission. So yeah, again, all submissions, it looks like, are through Submittable. That's the submission management system they're using. And yeah, so we can see there are 162 submissions tracked thus far. Again, that's not by any means how many submissions they receive overall. That's just how many have been keeping tabs on decisions through chill subs. Yeah. So yeah, I do believe they have an age requirement. I think you have to be 18 plus to submit to Sky Island Journal. It looks like there are eligibility requirements here. And yeah, so let's head over to the site, and take a look. They do have a duotrope listing again, right? And yeah, and I think it's showing published 4 times a year here. Yeah. So this is the website, skyislandjournal.com. We're gonna enter it here. So we can see they have poetry, flash fiction, creative nonfiction, the heading here, and the homepage. If we scroll down, so you can see it says submit here to issue 34. That's coming up here. And yeah, so I believe if you click on that, it'll take you out to their submittable page. I won't go back over there, but you can see this is all the issues they have laid out. And I think what's really cool is that, on their social media channels, we go out there, they totally, I think showcase, all the places others have submitted, from, where they're located. That international contributors to the issues is very cool. And yeah, so I think that's awesome. So it's really cool, the covers of these, and we can click into one of these. I'm in the desert, you could say, myself here. So I was looking at some of the ones that look like a desert, or the rocks, red rocks and stuff. So let's click on issue 20. I'm just curious, what it looks like when we click into one of these, and we'll see. So yeah, we'll scroll down. So there's a letter from the editor. And yeah, typically issues start with a letter from the editor of some kind, in regards to the issue. And yeah, or it could be a thank you note. So yeah, it looks like they have the contributors here, I think part of the issue. So what happens when you click on one of these, right? What comes off moving on, or from the poet or author, I think it gives you a Word doc download of the piece or work, is what it appears, So I think that's what happens on these if you click on these, right? So yeah, that's cool, So I think you can read pieces like that. I haven't seen anyone do that before, So it gives you a Word doc viewing of the publication. Yeah, so I think that's interesting. I haven't really seen anyone do that where you click on it, or the title of the piece, and then it is a Word doc, is what you receive, in your downloads, and you can open it up and read the piece, right? So that's a pretty interesting layout, So yeah, and let's take a look at we'll go back and check out. I think the other issues are set up like that too. Let's see. We can take a look here. So yeah, I think all of them are like that. So every time you click on, the name or title of piece, it gives you a Word doc file. And yeah, you can totally see they have writers from around the world based and located, right? So we have Japan here, Romania. Yeah. Kentucky, USA. So definitely international, poets submitting. Very cool. Let's take a look at the masthead here. So yeah, so it says in the southern reaches of Arizona and New Mexico, where their journal was born. So both, it looks like, and yeah, and yeah. So it says physically separated from other mountain ranges and according off this site, and much higher in elevation than the surrounding desert. Sky Islands are refugia for exotic species found nowhere else. Animals that only migrate vertically and relicit species that have found themselves stranded by a continually warming climate. Known for their ecological diversity, many Sky Islands are places where species from radically different biomes meet and mingle. Conversely, some promote extreme specialization in the species isolated there. Sky islands loom large in human culture. So yeah, it goes into here, a little bit further on the name, as you can see on my screen. So I would probably mispronounce this, so I'm going to not read that because I don't want to mess up any names there. But very cool on the tie back to cultures here, the homelands here, and yeah, and a little background on Sky Islands. I like seeing that, the origin of a name, how a name came to be of a lit manga journal, because I think it's really cool to learn about that, like, what a name means. Some lit magazine journals actually tie back to, a different meaning or have a story behind it. So I love seeing that. Yeah. And yeah. So yeah, these are, it looks like the co-founder and co-editor, right? So Jason Splichal. I'm sorry if I mispronounced Jason's last name. And yeah, so Jason is the co-founder and co-editor, and also Jeff Summerfield is a co-founder and co-editor. And yeah, so Jason is a husband, father, photographer, and the author of 6 books on yeah, including Katsura 2015, Flux 2012, and The Disappeared 2005. And it looks like he was a winner of the Lake Superior Writers Prize. His poetry, flash fiction, and creative nonfiction, work has appeared in journals, magazines, and anthologies throughout the United States. And he holds undergraduate degrees in comprehensive English education and American Indian Studies, as well as a master's degree in education. And yeah, it says he also, his postgraduate work focused on exploring the connections between consciousness and creation in the classroom by developing and implementing strategies to help students initiate, control, and sustain flow states, theta states in the creative writing process. So that's very cool, yeah. It says he divides his time between his ranch in Mexico and his home in Wisconsin, where he served for 22 years as an award winning English teacher. He's a wilderness advocate and a defender of free speech. He works in the shipping and container industry by day and gives his heart to Sky Island Journal by night. So that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So some founders of lit magazine journals, some are juggling multiple jobs. Some, work on the, literary magazine at night, or some are doing it part time or full time even. So very cool, always to read about, the masthead and their backgrounds, Not all lit magazine journals do that, but I like seeing transparency about who's running the lit mag or journal or the magazine, it's very cool. Jeff Summerfield, so co-founder and co-editor as well. So is an educator and lifelong learner who believes the two are inextricably linked. He holds a Doctor of Education from Alverno College, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where he focused on teaching and learning in higher education. And his research centers on filling pedagogical gaps in arts. I probably mispronounced something there. I'm so sorry. I'm tripping up my words today, guys. I apologize. In arts education through school and community partnerships. His reading palette is as diverse as his professional writing background. He developed successful litigation strategies for Fortune 500 clients, secured millions of dollars in grant funding for nonprofit organizations, and held the role of lead writer for a professional sports website. With nearly 2 decades of teaching experience, he has served K 12 undergraduate and graduate students throughout the United States. Born and raised in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, he and his wife reside near Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with their dogs. And yeah, very cool. Three. It looks like three dogs there in their names. So yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, you can see they're very transparent about their background and education, and I think it's so important, if you're going to start your own lit mag journal again, to submit to some yourselves. It's not necessarily you have to get an acceptance with every single one or anything like that, but I think it's important to understand how the submission process works, to get examples of like letters that editors send to you and their interactions with you, right? And yeah, I think it's very beneficial, to do that before starting your own one. Yeah. And so that's awesome. Yeah. So by the way, if you scroll to the very bottom, I don't know if you guys can see this. It says all website and cover photography by Jason. It's yeah, so I think it's all original, photography. So that's awesome. I love seeing, the original photographs there. I think that's really nice, and incorporating that. So yeah, it's always a good idea to put, some sort of credits to the photography on your website, or sometimes the founding editor contributes photography, or sometimes they intake community donations, or some places have it a little bit different. Some places use stock, but I think it's nice when you have original art, traditional art, and photography. It's a it makes it very unique, and human focused, right? When you have that. So yeah, I love that. Yeah, so very cool. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced Jason's last name or anyone's name in this as I'm reading again, but very cool again. So yeah, they have again, have a massive readership, and yeah, it's very cool. So again, they have their submission guidelines here. Always good to see an FAQ page, right? So it's great that others can read the journal, right, without any paywalls or things like that. They do have again a submission fee. However, right, they, it appears, do fee waiver requests. I'm not sure how many waiver requests. I know some places have a set limit of fee waivers that they do, or a small pool that they do for their windows. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, but yeah, so they have their mission statement here, and yeah, if you're going to be part of the CLMP membership, and maybe I'll cover an episode on CLMP again, just showing their website, the free portions of the site, right? And yeah, so the mission statement, is so important, I think, for your literary journal. You want to make it visible. It could be in the FAQ section. It could be on your homepage. I like putting it across each page, like in the bottom section, sort of appears or somewhere. It's always visible. But yeah, you want to have a very cool mission statement. So theirs is, it states here again, their mission is to provide readers around the world with a powerful, focused, advertising-free literary experience that transports them, one that challenges them intellectually and moves them emotionally. Yeah, so that's their mission statement, and that's what I read basically on the Chill Subs overview page. And it has their birthplace stated again, Luna County, New Mexico. The Florida Mountains Wilderness area is their muse, and its landscape is the source of their name and their positive energy and rugged independence and relentless tenacity. They exist again where the desert meets the mountains, where the indigenous meets the exotic, and the old ways meet the digital frontier. So they have their readership. I think it's good to be aware of your monthly site visitors, how many readers you have. And not every place does a breakdown of all their numbers, but some places do. On the past podcast episodes, so only poems, I think they used to show that at the bottom of their website, but I think they changed that. It used to show their readership, subscriber numbers, and totals at the bottom of their website. And some places have just like a page where they do all of that. And I think you've seen even with Polyphony Lit, right? The high school student run Lit Mag I covered on this podcast, right? They had a whole breakdown report in a document of everything, their impact report. So you could create an impact report of some kind, or just simply list, the readership numbers like this, I think it's good to be transparent about numbers. Chill Subs has that field for monthly site traffic visitors too, so it's good to be aware of that. So yeah, that's very cool, how many writers they've published, and internationally. Yeah. So again, just a reminder, right? They're dedicated to discovering and publishing the finest original poetry, flash fiction under 1,000 words, and creative nonfiction under 1,000 words. They only accept previously unpublished work. They do not consider work that only appears on your personal social media account and as a publication. Yeah, they only publish work written primarily in 50% or more in English. So yeah, every place has a different, social media policy. For the most part, there aren't a lot of lit magazine journals out there again that permit social media poetry publication or reshares or anything like that. Some do, only poems, right? In the past episode, right? They do have exceptions around that for some of their calls. So you just want to be mindful about that. And it's good to be upfront with others, like, has this been on your personal blog? And some places state, if you're going to submit something that was on a personal blog or social media, it's a good idea not to have it up, if it's going to be for an online feature or something, through, yeah. But anyways, yeah, they don't permit work that appears on social media account, and they publish quarterly. So they accept submissions year round, and yeah. So they publish again accomplished, established authors side by side with fresh emerging voices. And again, you must be at least 18 years of age to submit. So it has an artificial intelligence AI section here. I think this is what we'll see more and more lit magazine journals have, a section on this, or just a brief statement saying, we don't permit AI work, right? So, yeah. So, anyways, I'm gonna just read off what they have here for you guys. It says they don't make any moral judgments about artificial intelligence. In fact, the term artificial may soon become a linguistic relic of their bio Chavism. Yeah, and then one rather telling of their human insecurities. They figure AI is just as likely to save us from ourselves as it is to cause our extinction. They can't control how that will all shake out, but they can control what they publish. So they want to be clear that they only publish writing created entirely by humans. They exist to help humans emotionally connect with and be transported by one another on a spiritual level through the beauty, craft, and magic of language. Nothing against machines, of course, it states here, but they have no doubt that one day they will achieve consciousness as well, and when they do, perhaps still help them in the same way. Until then, its intimate exchange of pure creation is just for them, human to human, heart to heart. Yeah, so by submitting your work to Skyline Journal, you're verifying that you're a human author, right? Entirely responsible for creating the writing you've submitted. And yeah, so they have tools, this is to help them determine the probability with which AI was involved in generating a work. And Sky Island Journal reserves the right to decline any work at any time in the publication process for any reason, including detection scores, which indicate a high probability of AI generation and a low probability of human created content. They've had this policy in place since 2023. So yeah, I think again, it's important to have some sort of AI policies, considering how much that is becoming a problem nowadays. I think AI again, it's still evolving, and there are a lot of lawsuits around it, and a lot of really, it's just really eerie things. Very like, I am fully supportive of, human created work, traditional created work from scratch. I think again, I mentioned this on a past podcast episode, we were given our own hearts and minds, it's a, that human to human contact, reading the work from a human, someone who created that from their own heart and mind without the use of any tool or machines, right? It's so impactful, because, I think it doesn't make sense to rely on, AI to write a poem or any story or anything like that. The whole purpose of, being a writer, right, is to share work from your heart and mind, to really connect with others and to share moments in time, maybe communicate messages, you know. AI, again, content scraping is a problem, absolutely. And yeah, I know everyone has mixed opinions on that. I would say in some cases, AI, in terms of like building things, let's say a blueprint of an app idea you have, that's kind of cool, considering how much work it takes to develop an app from scratch. It can be cool to maybe tinker with that and say, yeah, I built this blueprint of this idea I have. But I think it's so important to be able to create things from scratch, to learn like the back end workings of things, And yeah, so humans, written by humans, I think that's so important, verifying, you're a human author. Now, AI detection tools and plagiarism detection tools, they're not 100% accurate or perfect. Throughout the year, every year, we see lit magazine journals community report that, this actually, we discovered it was plagiarized or created with AI or pulled from different places, or was a poet was basically mimicking another poet's work and changing a few things. And sometimes it's only caught after the fact, and they have to pull it down, and it's messy cleanup work, right, to remove all of that. And they have to do it because it feels really wrong to even have work like that, amongst others who are have created that, themselves. It's human created, it's original, right? So it's not good, right? It creates a mess for publishers, right, when others aren't following guidelines or are, submitted work that's not created by them. I think it's so wrong to do so. So yeah, again, no AI detection tool or plagiarism tool is 100% accurate or perfect, but it can help, minimize. I think, in terms of, helping catch things like Google Advanced Searches, some plagiarism checkers, and there are AI detection tools out there. I think, there are various ones. I covered a couple episodes, some tools out there, but they're not entirely perfect. They don't catch every single thing. So it's so important, again, I think, to really keep that in mind as an editor, right? It's going to happen sometimes. A lot of editors throughout their time, running their Littman journal over the course of decades, at some point in time, they come into contact with perhaps a plagiarist or someone who did AI generated work. And then they have to, address that. They have to do some cleanup, remove it, from the issues or pull it down. Because yeah, it's just wrong. It's very unethical to do that, and it's again, not right for others to steal work, to pass work off as their own, or to, I think, rely on, machine generated work in terms of writing and art, is what I'm saying. I know everyone has mixed views on AI, so I'm not going to go on and on about it. There's tons of books on AI, videos on the harms of AI and all of that, right? So yeah, um, yeah, one could say various AI tools, assistant tools, are trying to make others' lives easier. However, I think removing a human aspect from a work is so damaging and hurtful to society. Human creative work is very valuable and powerful, right? Yeah. So yeah, I won't go on and on about it, AI, but it's nice that they have this AI policy here. I think, if you're going to start your lit matter journal, you want to have, even if it's just a brief statement saying we do not accept AI work, and yeah, and something about, you reserve to decline the work, or to pull the work down if you discover it was, not complying with that, right? Things like that happen. Anyways, yeah, so they do not have a print component. Sky Island Journal, as still 2025, they are an online journal exclusively. So yeah, they are 100% free access, no subscriptions. It says no bullshit paywalls, and anyone of internet can access and read it anywhere. So that's nice. There are some lit magazine journals out there. I know they have a setup where everything's paywalled and you can't read. They have one sample of the issue, but then everything else is paywalled, and I don't like that. I think some lit magazine journals, and maybe I'll share some on this podcast, but implemented paywalls, they're like, that'll help, prevent AI content scraping, but not necessarily. I think there's research or articles out there, I could be wrong, where they said, sites still get indexed and things still show up in those, AI content scrapers or those AI bots or whatever. I don't know how it all works, but yeah, just know that I think, that there are ways to, again, structure publication to, sustain it without paywalling everything. And AI is everywhere. AI content scraping is happening. There are lawsuits over it, all of that. But we can't let it stop us from creating our human work, right? The work we create as human beings and art, right? There's always going to be this conflict between humans versus machines, right? And it's very, it's scary, honestly, guys, right? But anyways, yeah, it's nice they don't have any paywalls. I know some lit magazine journals, they paywall content perhaps on their Substack, right? But not everything, just bonus content, maybe bonus interviews, poems even in Patreon, right? Additional bonus content there, member only access to sustain the publication, but then keep everything on their site free to read. Yeah, and then or some places have a free to read online journal, and then they do a print series or something that others can purchase, right, too. But yeah, this is an example of, again, another online journal, completely online. And yeah, so yeah, they have a scroll through experience, it says. And yeah, they're elected to leave a scroll through experience. And yeah, each piece of writing that they publish opens a secure, protected read-only Word document for an authentic, focused, and immersive experience that encourages a close, intimate, distraction-free reading of the work. So yeah, this is what I think. I haven't seen any other lit mag or journal. There are probably others out there that maybe do this, but where just you access the work by, it pulls up a Word document file of it, right? And yeah, so that's nice. The one thing I will say about it, I think it's nice to, if we go back here, I'll head back to this to talk through the rest of their FAQ. And some of this I already covered, in the overview. But if we go back to the issues here, so yeah, it has the issue and then the summer, right? The year. So we click on this, right? The summer 2025 issue 32, right? And then there's the opening letter again. So the one thing I will say, I think it's in this case where it just is pulling up a Word document file. And let's click on this one by Ben Daggers, the flash fiction one, just to show you, what it looks like. So if we open this up, you can see this is what it looks like. The Word document file it pulls up. Just an example. Every time you click on a publication on their site, yeah, it pulls up a Word document file, right? And this one by Brent Fisk, if we pull it up, it'll open the Word document file. And yeah, so like this. So yeah, that's a unique way, I think, to have others read issues. But I think it's nice to, my one comment would be, I think it's nice to see the exact publication date of a piece, the month, date, and year of each individual piece. I know it's overall in the issue here, but and it could be in the document file itself. I don't know. Some document files have a recorded timestamp, I think. I could be wrong. But anyways, it's yeah, that would be my only comment. And yeah, it is scrolling through, it's a scrolling experience. So I think everyone has different preferences on this, in terms of issues and reading. Some like to have flip through issues, some like to have a scrolling experience, or I think as long as everything's easy to read, easy to access like this, that's all really that matters, for your Litman journal. But I think some readers may be interested maybe in flip through issues, or you know um, yeah, and things like that. But I think if you're dealing with an online journal, right, you just want to make sure everything's easy to access, easy to get to, very organized, and it is. So that's yeah, so it doesn't need be anything super complicated to start up your lit mag journal. Some places just have online issues like this. And could be I think you could call this a hero cover image, right? And the date, year, and then it goes into each publication, right? A click through, right? And it's nice that they include the photo, the bio, and the piece, right? That others can easily read. Yeah. So, some lit magazine journals, do dive into print, or anthologies sometimes, but not always, There have been a lot of long-standing online lit magazine journals that have been solely online, and have done a wonderful job, like Sky Island Journal, has been around since 2017. So, yeah. So we'll go back to the submission guidelines here. And yeah, so we covered that. So again, no subscription is here or needed. And yeah, so creative nonfiction. So they explain that, what it means, and flash fiction, right? So creative nonfiction is the truth told well. Creative nonfiction employs literary devices, techniques, and elements of style more commonly associated with fiction to create a factual, accurate nonfiction narrative that reads in a vivid and compelling way. They like to keep theirs under 1,000 words. It says, what do they mean by flash fiction? So they define flash fiction as a short story told in fewer than 1,000 words. So yeah, flash fiction guidelines vary, for each place, or short story guidelines, or to say. So just be mindful about that. Whenever you're submitting like the word count, you want to be very careful. Some lit magazine journals have even a poetry line count requirement or a maximum amount of lines, and pieces. I think especially for print, because they have to fit it right on a certain for the page, right? But yeah, and they welcome and enjoy all. It looks like poetry, yeah, and yeah. So yeah, it says, why do they only publish fiction and creative nonfiction under 1,000 words? So they state that they're dedicated to the succinct, elegant craft of concision. They believe that big ideas can live well in small spaces, and we know that many of others do too. So yeah, some places publish shorter works, short stories. They don't necessarily do essays or anything like that. But there are lit magazine journals out there that do that, or online publications I covered in the past episode, right? Strange Pilgrims, essays and things of that nature. It looks like they're doing, or some other ones I've mentioned. Yeah. And yeah, so they have a very clear FAQ page. I won't read every single portion of this, so it's important you go back if you're interested in submitting to Sky Island Journal to look through this, but I will scroll through for you guys on my screen here. It says what they are looking for, and what they aren't looking for. So they don't want to limit the readers, therefore they don't want to limit the submitter. They state they know quality work when they experience it. They want others to know, right, that they're not interested in making your art conform to some preconceived aesthetic, right? Yeah. It says when it comes to what they publish, they encourage you to read, previous issues. Yeah. So yeah, they have, what they're looking for, and I won't read through all of this, but they encourage others to read previous issues and send your best work to them. So yeah. So it says here, there are no grad school screeners, no volunteer readers, no literati tastemakers, or no slush piles at Skyline Journal. So I think they're just doing it all themselves. So yeah, and yeah, they try to do it in an average of 9 days, so that's fairly quick, compared to most places. I think that's awesome. That's a fairly quick response time, not bad at all. On chill subs, I think others were saying, yeah, they were seeing an average of 7 days, and averages can change over time, but it looks like they've been very consistent in that thus far. Yeah. So it says any submission that includes either a cover letter or bio will be declined. All submissions are non-refundable. So yeah, it looks like they don't want cover letters or bios. So there is a feature though in Submittable where the cover letter section can be concealed. So I don't know if they are going to do that one day, or if this is hasn't been updated. But anyways, there is a feature I recall in Submittable where you can conceal the cover letters for readers and even yourself as an editor. So based on the level you're at. So yeah, that's something. But yeah, some lit magazine journals typically use a conceal feature with their submission management system, or they say don't include a cover letter at all or bio at all. They just want to focus on the work at hand, and that's great. So yeah, and it says they do blind reads, so don't put any identifying information. It says if you forget, you won't be penalized. They simply remove it before individual pieces enter the cycle of deep reading and discussion and voting. So yeah, yeah, so some lit magazine journals, they're not super strict on that in the terms of having identifying information in the file before it oftentimes it's caught before it goes through the rounds of review, or sometimes there's no penalty for that. However, at the Lit Mag and journal or press I run, right? So if it's for a contest or anything involving a cash award, that would disqualify them, because we cannot, that wouldn't be fair to others. for our other categories, we have some that are, interviews, and some things that are, where we do see the information. But for a majority of all the calls at Dipty Lit Mag, for instance, right, we have that cover letter concealed from our reading team and everything. Only to the final round do, I see and verify all of that information to the best I can, with what, or sometimes a poet puts a very brief line and then we just verify the bio at the end. So yeah, I think it's important, absolutely, for contest or large cash awards that, be blind and concealed reads, no identifying information. But some lit magazine journals, right, they don't penalize you. They remove that, or they just, for that, or maybe typically what I do, I give a reminder, hey, if you submit to us again, please do not put any identifying information in your file, because it'll be rejected for like our contests and other calls, and it wouldn't be fair to others. So just I give reminders to others, please leave your identifying information off the file. And an additional note, very small, if they submit in the future. So yeah, so they encourage simultaneous submissions, and yeah, it says they if you submitted your piece elsewhere, just send, um, clarify which works, were are being withdrawn, or clarify, um, they may still consider it for publication, or which works have been accepted elsewhere, just let them know. So yeah, sometimes if your work has been accepted elsewhere and you let them know, some places were like, maybe they'll also give you a decision, but in most cases I've seen poets withdraw and just, go with the first acceptance they've had to honor that with the first lit mag journal that has that. There's been cases where we had a poet who submitted work to us that was also accepted at another lit mag journal at the same time, and I think they chose to have one piece accepted with them and one piece um, you know, uh, accepted through that we selected, right, published through us. So they split it out, right, because they had two double acceptance at the same time. So they had one poem published in the other journal and one published poem with us, in that submission of two poems. So that was interesting, sometimes you may run into that as an editor, right, where some poets have pieces accepted elsewhere, and it's like, they, and or maybe you send out, and what happened I think was we sent out an acceptance decision like right after that they had gotten the other acceptance decision from another journal, and then it was like, oh, they got the acceptance first, so and we also sent acceptance, so they chose to split those pieces out, yeah, so they had work published in two journals then, so yeah, or lit mags, right. Their acceptance rate averaging 3% again, and then it says don't let it discourage you. Every quarter they publish 25 to 50 writers, and yeah, so it's cool. They have this breakdown. I don't see a lot of lit magazine journals do this, but from time to time I do. On social media or like on sites. So they cover how many individual pieces were received, how many individual pieces were published, and then the percentage there, right, in terms of the stats. So issue 32 is here, right? I don't see we're on 33, right? Or 34, right? So their issue 34 calls open until December 31st, 2025, it looks like. So issue 32, I think they're going to put up issue 33 maybe. So issue 32 is showing 2,440 individual pieces received. That's a lot. And then 58 individual pieces published. So 2.4% there. So yeah, I think it's cool to see numbers like that, to really see how many submissions they get. That's a lot. Yeah. So absolutely, it helps, when you're dealing with, as I mentioned, thousands or hundreds of submissions, to have a submission management system, of some kind. I've covered a couple different ones on this podcast. So totally, I think that to get all of those just via email, that would be a mess, guys. That'd be so hard to keep track of, and absolutely very tricky. So yeah, they're listed on new pages, Duotrope, Poets and Writers, Chill Subs, and other places. Always a good idea when you start your Lit Mag journal to be in listing directories, search databases, yeah. So it says they accept submissions year round and publish quarterly. You can submit whenever you like, as often as you like. There's no limit. Yeah, they said they're wolves and they're always on the hunt for the best new writing. They never rest. They're relentless, and it says you should be too. Yeah, so this hasn't been updated quite yet because I think they're on actually issue 34, as you can see here. And yeah, and yeah, so um, and yeah, so that's pretty much it. Again, they're using submittable, and yeah, again, they do charge a submission fee. It says free to access. And they're, a small percentage of lit magazine journals charge fees. But hopefully, it's hard, for lit magazine journals to cover costs. I don't know, how many fee waivers again they give out, at Skyline Journal, but nevertheless, 4.99, it's not too bad. Keep in mind, submittable does take a percentage again, away from that too, off of every submission fee. And I do apologize if you hear any barking in the background on this episode. But yeah, so yeah, so 4 to 5 poems again in a single document, 2 to 3 fiction pieces, 2 to 3 flash fiction pieces under 1,000 words in each in a single document, 2 to 3 creative nonfiction pieces under 1,000 words in a single document again. It says if you live outside the United States, yeah, they have fee waivers, and yeah, so yeah, that's nice. So they don't pay writers at this time. It may change. Who knows? Some lit magazine journals restructure themselves over time. Some get rid of fees. Some, do pay writers in the future, or work towards that. I don't know if Sky Island Journal is ever going to do that. However, I think they have a pretty cool setup. And how many poets they've published to date is really cool. So yeah, it goes into the social media platforms, and then serial rights again. First North American serial rights, first electronic rights. All rights are returned to the author again. So same thing with the other, past couple episodes I've shared. The other lit magazine journals, right? Yeah, so they nominate for Best of the Net every September, and they nominate for Pushcart Prize, and yeah, there are, I'm sure over time there'll be more, there could be more nomination events. Sometimes there are, new ones, that I've come across too. I haven't entered many of the, or I'm looking into the ones for stories and, fiction work, mostly, Dippy Lit Mag and the Press and Run. We mostly entered just, Push Card and Best of the Net, and then most recently this year we entered Best New Poets. However, there are ones out there for stories and things of that nature. I just haven't looked into that. I think I've missed the windows, or the so that's something on my own to do list, to look more into those stories, nomination events and flash outside of the common ones that typically are entered, like Best of the Net and Pushcart. So yeah, there's some places have a privacy policy, right? And some privacy policies are full page. We have a separate privacy policy page, and then links out to the policies of the other, our submission management system. Anything that you're entering data into, it's a good idea to have some sort of privacy policy, or to specify that, right? So yeah, so it goes into, I won't read all of this, but it covers, what about, their thoughts on third party submission trackers, and things like that, yeah. So they said they think it's okay to use third party submission trackers, um with yeah, as general guides to help you discover more about other writers' experiences with later journals that are not transparent with their numbers. So yeah, it says, however, as a writer, you have to put the work in and personally check out the publications you want to submit to. The editors of those publications are the only ones who truly know all of their numbers. And yeah, the only publications you should consider submitting to are the ones that are voluntarily transparent with their numbers, like them. So yeah, I don't see, again, breakdowns of all numbers of lit magazine journals, but I think chill subs, and this stat page is very helpful, and yeah, so being transparent about your acceptance rate, even some lit mags and journals right out there have a very high solicitation amount in terms of work. And I think it's important just to be transparent on that, or whether they've discontinued solicitation or anything like that, right? And yeah, so I think Skyline Journal does a good job of being transparent about their number breakdown, how many submissions they received. They're really on top of that. The cool thing about submission management systems, you can see, like a graph on some, breakdown a little bit that can help you calculate all of that too, the numbers, and stay on top of that too. And yeah, not all, but some do. And yeah, so if you're going to start your own lit mag journal, be aware of your numbers, right? What's your response time, your acceptance rate, how many submissions have you received for the window, how many have submitted to date for the year, where are they submitting from, right? I think it's cool to, some have like done an international map or tracker, or Skyline Journal likes to post on social media, right, where everyone has submitted from, a summary of that. I think that's cool. The international submission coverage or contributors, of each issue. So yeah, online lit mags and journals, there are a lot of different ways you can set it up. I just want to show you an example, one that was a little bit different from the others I've covered on this podcast, right? So you click on the publication again, and and I think I've gone through everything. I haven't read everything word for word for you guys. I passed over some things, so you always want to read the FAQ page a little bit further than what I've covered, but I try to cover the main things. So yeah, again, I think this setup that Skyline Journal has is very cool. Original photography as the cover image. Then others can, always read a letter from the editor, right? And then there is, the published work, right? Yeah, so it just opens up it opens up the Word document file. So yeah, the one thing I would say, I think it's nice for, the one thing I'll say, I think it's nice for lit mags and journals to have a search of some kind to, search for work, you know, um, when it's getting into a large amount of issues and things like that. So that would be my only comment here, and not everyone has a preference of scrolling through. It's really up to you how you want to structure your own lit mag journal if you start it. I covered some interactive flip readers on this podcast, PDF files and things like that. You could do flip book issues if you'd like, or some a lot of lit mags journals, what they do, they publish the work, and it takes, you could click on a cover image of the issue, right, and then it takes you out like this almost, and all the work is linked out, right, and it takes you out to sometimes a separate page even for each individual piece. Some places have different setups, right, as I've shown you on this podcast. So dig into the other, under the slide spotlight episodes of lit mags and journals I've covered in this podcast. This was one of the ones I think that I've covered that has a fee, right, implemented as of 2025. And they do not pay at this time, poets or writers for their work. But, who knows? Things change at lit mags and journals over time, and yeah. So they have, a contributor and award section, right? Yeah, so that's cool. I think that's nice that they do that. And they have a podcast of Voices from the Sky. I think I don't know if they're still doing the podcast, but from time to time, I think it's cool, to listen to the various podcasts, lit mags and journals run. It could feature poetry, flash fiction, nonfiction. The only thing I would say about a podcast again is that you want to be consistent, maybe in your schedule of those if possible, or the structure of it, absolutely. And maybe I'll do a separate episode on facilitating a podcast. I think I did mention it a little bit in one of the episodes on the Q&A series on how to start up a podcast. It's not hard at all, so yeah, if you don't want to do a it doesn't have to be on Spotify or some of the other channels, Podbean, or there are free platforms, absolutely, to start up a podcast. And some lit mag journals just use YouTube, and then maybe they branch out to, it could be Spotify and other places. And you could start up a podcast with no money down to start it up. There are some places where some platforms you pay a monthly fee, but I wouldn't use those at all since there are other free platforms out there. It just doesn't make sense to use a platform that charges a fee to keep the episodes up in the library and stuff, because there are absolutely free alternatives, as I've covered on this podcast, right? So yeah, so that's Sky Island Journal. I think they have a very cool format, very, very unique though. Absolutely. I think I really love the photography, absolutely. It's very, very cool. And yeah. So yeah, my only things again, I think it might be nice one day maybe to have a search on their site or something like that. And yeah, so I think it's easy to read. I think the nice thing about, what they're doing with the Word document file that I will say is a plus is that on a lot of sites, when you go to read poetry, right, on your mobile device or, sometimes, of course, it skews the reading experience, right? It's all jumbled on mobile readers, different size devices. And yeah, but, it's, yeah, I think it's definitely a unique format, because I don't see a lot of places have a downloadable file like that for individual pieces. I do see downloadable issues, Word PDF documents, I mean. So, yeah, it's really up to you how you want to structure it. I just want to show you an example of a different layout that online lit mag or journal that's been around for, 8 years now has and intakes international submissions. Again, they have a $5 fee. I would say if you're going to start your own Lit Journal, right, make sure you exhaust all options before resorting to implementing fees. Yeah, at Dippy Lit Mag, Dippy Press, we did have fees for a while, or when I started, it was first time and more is free. Then we changed it and then restructured again. And I just got rid of fees because they were just, I just felt like they were a headache and I don't like, fees at all myself. So I was like, so we haven't, you know, um, gotten rid of fees at Dippity Press for our chapbooks, submissions, but we did get rid of fees at Dippity Lit Mag, the literary magazine I run. In episode one, I mentioned our fee structure, but has dissolved since July. At Dippy Lit Mag, we no longer have fees. And yeah, also, we have fee waiver, link generation for, Dippity Press for disabled writers. But yeah, so yeah, Skyline Journal's using Submittable, but I'd recommend checking out some of the other submission management systems or form builders out there before you make that decision. Submittable has a monthly fee. Subfolio, what we use at Diplomat Mag and Press, right, has a monthly fee. It's the same amount, $29 is what we were on, and then we got, if you're on the CLMP membership, maybe I'll cover that in the next episode. I know I shared a little bit about that, the benefits of CLMP membership, but maybe I'll do a tour of the public pages for you guys in the next episode. Yeah. Just a little bit further than what I've covered. So that's Skyline Journal. So very awesome. So yeah, I must say Jason and Jeff of Sky Island Journal, I think they do a really stellar job, very supportive on social media channels, resharing. And yeah, most everyone I've come to contact in the Lit Mag journal community has been very supportive of one another. Really cool that they do their best to reshare, publication news of past contributors or any accomplishments they've had, in in terms of publication, and acceptance. Yeah. So I think that's really nice that they, reshare, publications of past contributors or any acceptances that they've had. And yeah, very cool, So over time, some lit magazine journals, may restructure their site or anything. This is what their site looks like as of, October 2025. So I just wanted to cover, Skyline Journal because I think they do a great job. They do have, a fee in place. And some lit magazine journals do, it's not $10, $20 or $30. Some places have insanely high fees that just really don't add up or make sense, So just be mindful about that. Again, if you're going to implement a fee at your lit mag journal, because you absolutely, need to cover operational cost or, the site costs and things, I would say, do that as a last resort, because a lot of writers, right, they totally and are, yeah, hate fees, right? We all do. And, so yeah. But, it could change one day. Some magazine journals, have restructured things over the years, it all depends, how things are going, budget wise and, covering expenses for, everything and keeping it going, over the years. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. All I can think. So that's Skyline Journal. Yeah, check it out sometime. It looks like they have an open call for their issue 34, right? Up till December. And yeah, so very cool, very cool. Again, I really like their the mountain logo they have for their journal too. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, just some things to keep in mind, when creating your FAQ page. I wanted to show their FAQ page, especially because I think they do a good job of like breaking all down like common questions. Always a good idea to do that, as always, have an FAQ page, or it could be under your submit page where all the questions and guidelines are, there reiterated, not just like on chill subs, or also you need to have it on your website, your mission statement, all of that. And yeah, to be part of the CMP membership too, you need to have all of that organized, like your mission statement. Everything needs to be clear guideline wise, and yeah, and there are other things, that are taken consideration for the membership as well. So I will probably do an episode next on CLMP for you guys, a bit more thorough than episode 15 was. I think that's what it was, covering the benefits of CLMP membership. But yeah, so take care, guys, and I hope this episodes are helping you. If they are, subscribe. Give it a thumbs up on a platform if you can, or rate the episode. If it helps others see these episodes or discover a place to submit or find a home for the work. I do have, again, a QA series that I do from time to time, like general questions, which predominantly most of it was earlier on in the podcast, but sometimes it's in the middle, or from time to time I'll do a question or question answer episode too, very short or long. Most of the episodes have been chunky and long, so I do apologize, but just talking through each lit mag and journal and some of the common things I ran into, and some of the mistakes I made, starting my lit mag journal, or just my thoughts. It may help someone. So yeah, it doesn't hurt to share, as I always say, right? Just sharing my experiences, and yeah, so that's all, guys. Take care, yeah.